I offer this podcast freely. Your support really makes a difference. To make a donation, visit reneemckenna.com. Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about metaphysics. We live on a plane of duality. There's a physical realm and a metaphysical realm, the non-physical reality, life force, spirituality, the larger consciousness system that underlies all form. And there's an interrelated causation between the physical and the non-physical, and they inform each other. That what we do and experience in the physical realm can absolutely affect us in how we feel, what we believe, what our experience is. And conversely, if we are willing to look deeply at our feelings, our beliefs, our experience, and become conscious and intentional about our inner world, it can have tremendous positive implications for changing external reality. Everything that exists in the human realm began as an idea, and then it was created. And I was introduced to the idea of metaphysics early in my spiritual explorations, and I find it fascinating. The body, mind, spirit, physical world connections, and how what's happening in our inner life is often manifested in our outer life, and how when we change our internal structures, our external structures shift accordingly. Now, because we live in primarily a physical reality, at least that's the most easily accessible realm with our 5 senses to experience, it's natural that if we want to change how we feel or change our experience, that we want to change the external world. And certainly that can change our experience. But because there's this correlation between my inner world and my outer world, if I change the outside and the inside doesn't change to correspond with it, then the outside change will often not provide the joy, happiness, peace, or fulfillment that I'm seeking, because I have not created an atmosphere of joy, peace, or fulfillment within. The spiritual principle, as within, so without. And believe me, I gave it a really solid try to change the outside so the inside would feel better. Much of my early life, I was trying to find the right boyfriend, lose the right amount of weight, get the right job. And I tried many, many algorithms of that configuration and kept ending up in the same misery, anxiety, and depression because the common denominator was me. And I had to change the inside first in order for the outside changes to really be able to take root and grow. I had a friend early in life. His mother committed suicide when he was 18. She was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and she overdosed at home. And his girlfriend at the time was also a drug addict. They had a really difficult relationship, and ultimately he broke up with her, and he met a new woman. Seemed completely different. She was a nurse. She had a really great job. She owned her own home, and she was just coming out of a divorce. She had a young daughter. And they got together and he thought, this is it, I've found the right person. And they had 3 beautiful kids together. But over time, she started to hurt herself at work. She hurt her back. She had to have shoulder surgery. And she started to take drugs for the different surgeries and the chronic pain. And then there was more pain and more drugs. And ultimately, she left work on disability. And she started to go to rehab because the Percocets and the OxyContin had become a way of life. And their relationship deteriorated. And when their oldest child was 18, she overdosed and died in their house, just like his mother. Now, there's a great mystery to these karmic repetitions. This is a particularly tragic one. And I don't want to imply that we are always doomed to repeat our childhood tragedies. But if there's any repetitions in your life, I encourage you to look at how you are participating in them. Because if we don't grow and evolve, we may be doomed to repetition. But there are ways we can change the outside to affect internal change as well. Usually that has to do with letting go of old ways of being, thinking, and behaving. Some might call it making room for God. And it is often in letting go of that which we are most attached to that we are brought to the greatest change and relief. That's certainly been true for me in a continuing, expanding recovery around addictions. Started with drugs and alcohol, then cigarettes, then food, then sex and dysfunctional relationships over a long course of time, letting go of these behaviors that medicated, that filled that hole in my soul, but didn't really fill it. In fact, they became toxic. And it was by being willing to face and enter that hole inside myself, to feel my feelings, to resolve my unresolved emotional issues, to release my resentments, to come to forgive those who had harmed me, and to find compassion for myself. And that willingness to go into those shadows was only driven by desperation. And on the other side of those shadows, I found the light and grace that ultimately have come to fill those empty spaces in a way I could not have imagined before. And we can work with that directly, this idea of making room for God. It's actually what Lent is about, the Catholic tradition before Easter, creating space so the new life and rebirth of Easter has a space to grow. I'm actually experimenting for the second time with intentionally making space by letting go of most of my physical possessions, letting go of my life and my relationships here in San Francisco, moving to Manhattan. It's an abundant universe. I'm on about my 6th set of stuff in my life, at least. There's always more stuff. And I'm excited for a new experience, stepping into the unknown willingly, surrendering to universal will. Show me what you want for me and from me, and grant me the power to carry it out. I'm going to clear the deck, make it easy. I had a wonderful experience with that in 1999. I sold everything I owned. I was cleaning houses at the time. I had some money in the bank and I was thinking about taking a trip around the world. I wanted to do something. I was 35. My life was fine, but I knew there was something more. So I released all the attachments I could, even had a period of intentional celibacy. I meditated a lot and said, show me my highest good. Show me where I can be of most service to others and myself. And a series of circumstances brought me to San Francisco and a graduate school, a new career, a whole new culture and trainings in this amazing work presented themselves, one after the other. I got married, had babies, and now the kids are big, and it's time for the next adventure. So I'm clearing the deck again. I was introduced to this idea reading an article on metaphysics and dating, and it was saying, if you want a relationship and one's not coming, do you actually have room for one in your life? If you really want a partner, are you willing to make space in your closet, share your kitchen? Do you have time in your schedule to devote to a loving, intimate relationship? Can you make room for that which you really want? Are there old hurts or resentments or fears of intimacy or vulnerability from past relationships that need to be let go? Do you still think or fantasize about an old lover more than is healthy or appropriate? Do you habitually date people that you don't really like or get obsessed with people that are emotionally unavailable? Looking at our patterned ways of being, getting honest about them, and being willing to do it different. A very powerful way to work with metaphysics. Looking at what wants to grow and change, be received or released within us, and then creating the fertile ground in our physical reality for something new and different to happen. But a lot of times we think we want something different, and at the same time, we're afraid of the unknown. And because of this interactive nature of reality, that push-pull keeps us stuck. I have a client, very talented musician, who's also a carpenter, and he really wants to make music. And over he'll be recording songs and posting them or sending them out, and then he'll stop. He's not able to be consistent. He tells himself, it'll never happen for me. He's afraid to perform. He's afraid to put himself out there. Totally understandable. He grew up with chaos and craziness and learned to keep himself safe by playing small. But he really loves creating music, and at the same time, he's afraid to put himself out there. And we've been doing a lot of soul retrieval work, connecting with these child parts of himself that are frightened or unsupported and bringing them into present time, connecting them with spirit, with his own developing, healthy inner parent. but he still tends to reward himself with too much time on Netflix, oversleeping, or helping other people with things they need rather than focusing on his own goals and dreams, because he simultaneously wants it and doesn't want it at the same time. And so he stays stuck. And many of us do that. And the work is to become conscious about what's really happening and to face our fears and to be willing to go into the unknown. It's safe to go into the unknown. In fact, it is often the known, the repeated patterns that are actually unsafe for us if we really look at them. And so I encourage you to look at where you can make room in your own life for something new. Where can you push against your own comfort zone? What wants to change or be healed on the inside to create positive, constructive change on the outside? And if you'd like some help with that process, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. We can talk about setting up a block of sessions, see if this work might be helpful for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, consider giving 5 stars on Spotify or a good review on iTunes. Deep gratitude to my supporters on Patreon. You can find me on Instagram @ReneeLaVallee-McKenna. And I'm doing a lot of deep healing live events on Insight Timer. I'm getting ready to release our Open Door Growth course on shamanism, upper world and lower world, a really wonderful program for this ancient tool for self-healing and empowerment, brought to you right in your own home. And there's a link in the show notes if you want to find out more about that Open Door Growth Intro to Shamanism course. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaVallee-McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.